whole on to 9 than 12 the year before that. And why are they staying away from Optus Oval? Is it media driven in some way? Is it sentiment on behalf of the public?
Look, I don't think, I think we're guessing at the moment because we haven't done any detailed surveys. Clearly the successes of Hawthorn and St Kilda are relevant. Hawthorn has done a most extraordinary job in building up a fervour about the new birth or the rebirth of Hawthorn, and Ian Dicker and his team deserve a great deal of plaudits for doing what they've done there. And so Hawthorn's revival, if you like, post-merger has had a lot to do with it. St Kilda's sort of newfound success, I think, is having something to do with it as well. As for Optus Oval, I mean, look, Optus Oval is, as you know, Tim, because it's your team's home ground. It is a superb location for the smaller games. It's a great boutique ground. It's a ground that you get a lot of atmosphere at when you've got crowds of 20 and 25,000. But it is difficult to attract very large crowds there, where it's appearing to be this year. The other problem, I think, with it is that with a ground with a capacity of 35,000, you've got to question what sort of games we can actually ideally locate there. Certainly you don't locate games there that are going to draw, in other circumstances, 40, 50 and 60,000 at perhaps the MCG or at Waverley Park.
Surely too, Graeme, a factor in the resurgence behind Waverley has been the impact of the reserve seating arrangements in Optus Oval and the popular perception that Optus Oval is a ground for the elite spectator. Now, rightly or wrongly, I think people are going to draw the same conclusion with the Docklands Stadium. Yeah, you're now potentially in a bit of a public relations corner, I would have thought, from that point of view.
No, not so, Rohan. Look, it's becoming clearer that the punters will pay for better facilities. At Docklands, they are going to get the best facilities that they get in Australia, if not in the world. They will be extraordinary facilities for viewing the game, undercover. That is even with the roof open, total undercover protection from rain and from elements, extraordinary accessibility, beautiful seating. Every element of it will be good, and they will pay for that. But by the same token, there will be large segments of the Docklands that will be open for the public, open for general admission. And I think that's been made clear since we announced the whole Docklands package. Look, it is hard with Optus Oval. In one sense, I think one of the ideal configurations for us to have would be to have the MCG, Waverley Park, and then to have Optus Oval as that third ground for the smaller games. I think the real conundrum we have with Optus Oval at the moment is that Carlton would like, for obvious reasons, to have it as its home ground. Now, Carlton is a very big drawing club. It will draw on the worst of occasions. It'll draw crowds at the MCG of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people. I think the real difficulty we have is that Carlton would like to develop Optus Oval as its home ground, and yet a ground that's got a capacity of 35,000 with limited car parking and public transport makes it, I think, very difficult for us to contemplate that as the home ground for Carlton, and yet that is their desire, so that's a real issue for us.
One ground whose attendances must thrill you is the SC.
Has had a little bit of trouble in the courts. Does that concern the Commission, Greg Williams?
Do you feel immersed in that ground? I mean, you haven't been seen as a football commissioner so much as an economic one.
Look, I think that's right, but I think it's that's an important case for us, not the issue of Greg Williams or Carlton, and let me sort of not comment on that case, but it's been very important, and it's come out in commentary since the court decision. It is very important to the AFL that we really determine the limits of the ability of the courts and of lawyers to interfere with the way the game manages itself. That's the reason that we're taking this on appeal. I think we want to clearly define what those limits are. No one really wants to see a lot of football money go into legal expenses, into lawyers' hands and into the courts.
But you'll spend a bit more for the time being.
I think we have to, Tim, because what the court did in the Williams decision was to really say that the court has an ability to interfere in tribunal decisions, which gives the capacity where there's a disgruntled player or club at any time to frankly take any tribunal decision onto an appeal. You take the course that perhaps Greg Williams adopted, which was the appropriate one, which is to go for an interlocutory injunction. The injunction's put in place. Think of that around finals times, when you sort of put an injunction in place for 4 or 5 weeks, run you through the finals, and then the player says, oh, look, I don't want to take this any further now, I'll withdraw the case. Now, so I think that the real issue for us at the moment is to determine once and for all how far the courts can interfere. We hope that the final adjudication is that the courts have a very, very limited role if in fact any role at all. It'd be better if they had no role at all in dealing with football matters. They ought to be dealt with by the tribunal and by the football world in their own way without the involvement of lawyers.
We touched on the AFL's perception with the football media and football public earlier. There's no doubt, I think they're